Now going to the NFC, much tougher division to kind of pick, I felt. So, all right, we're going to go the same way. We're going to start with the NFC East. Who do you have for your NFC East winner? Division winner.
Obviously, I'm a Cowboys fan, so it's a little hard to be unbiased here. Um, it's between Dallas and Washington for me. I'm just going to start verbally processing here because I don't fully know who I'm going to pick yet. I don't expect the Eagles to be in it. I don't think the Giants are going to be in it. So I'm going with either Washington or Dallas. And really, it's basically who am I more comfortable with, the Dallas defense or the Washington offense. And I think I'd probably have to give the edge to Washington. Um, yeah, I think I'd give the edge to Washington. They just have a really good defense. Defense wins championships. I don't think Washington's going to be winning a championship, but they could win the division championship. So, yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Washington. I think they probably win the division. I like Antonio Gibson, Scary Terry, Curtis Samuel. So they absolutely have weapons. Really, the only question mark is at quarterback. And I think Fitzpatrick's good enough for them to win some games because all he has to do is just not turn the ball over realistically. So, going to take Washington to win the NFC East.
So I'm with you. Going Washington. I feel like we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick. What everyone's saying is, as long as we get Ryan Fitzpatrick that played in Miami last year is the way he played. If he plays like that in Washington, which I think he can and will, I think they'll definitely take this division. In my mind, once again, similar to John, I think Dallas was right there in conversation. I know the Giants are a favorite, and I do like their defense. It's just offensively, I'm worried. I feel like Giants fans and everyone's been worried about this for years, but their offensive line just didn't look too impressive in preseason, and that is obviously a big worry. And I feel like that's going to inhibit Daniel Jones from even taking the next step. So, and then obviously you already mentioned Philly. I'm sorry, Philly fans, you're rebuilding, so not your year. So yeah, I have Washington winning that division as well. Going to my NFC North, I'm going with that Packers. It's plain and simple. Bears could, but I just don't think with Justin Fields, and I think the defense will be solid. And that's not Justin Fields, the offense, but I'm still not a big believer in Matt Nagy's offense. And then obviously Detroit's rebuilding. Minnesota could be right there. I like what they did with the D line, but if I'm being realistic and objective, I mean, the offense not overly creative once you stop the run. I mean, they're really dependent on their Dalvin Cook runs to set up the play action because they don't have a lot of just creativity otherwise. And then, Adam Thielen's been in and out the past few years. I mean, health is a concern for him, and also even for Dalvin Cook. I mean, if he goes down, like I just mentioned, Alexander Madison's solid, but not the difference maker that he is. And also losing Irv Smith once again hurts their overall game because he's a solid run blocker, and I think we all expected him. I mean, we pod cursed him, but we expected him to be a contributor in the pass game. So go with my Packers there for the division.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Once again, I don't think I really need to explain it. Sort of like the Chiefs, it's Green Bay's division as long as Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback.
Alrighty, and then now going to the AFC South. I think we know where we're going here.
NFC South.
NFC South. My apologies, jeez. Yeah, who are you going with for the NFC South?
Once again, doesn't need explanation. It's Tampa Bay. They brought back the whole team. Last year, I don't think they won it because of chemistry issues. Clearly, they found it towards the end of the year after their bye week. So, Tampa.
Yeah, going Tampa as well. So, no shocker there. But this is the most interesting division here. The NFC West. I almost mixed it up. NFC West. Who do you have here in this wild division?
This division is so hard. I think every team has the potential to win it, but I'm going to take the Rams. I really believe in Sean McVay. I think he's one of the best offensive coaches in the league. I think you give him a guy like Matthew Stafford, the weapons that they do have. The offensive line is still solid. Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey just cover up so many mistakes on defense because of how dominant they are. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, like last year, the way he played, he can take out guys completely out of the game. Like some of the most elite receivers in the game are getting under 50 yards on like, 2 or 3 catches, no touchdowns. Like that's just such a difference maker for the opposing offense because all of a sudden they can't throw to their top target. Now Aaron Donald's in their face every play. Um, I am a little concerned about losing John Johnson, Troy Hill, a few of the guys like that. Um, but overall, I still think they're good enough to win the division, especially with Matthew Stafford, because I think he gives them a big upgrade on the quarterback spot. And in my mind, I'm thinking we could see a finally fully unlocked version of Sean McVay's offense that maybe we haven't been able to see. Now, maybe that sort of mystery of the unknown is, potentially a little misguiding. And that's my only big worry about the Rams is that people sort of feel like Jared Goff has held them back for so long that getting Matthew Stafford should elevate them so far that maybe that's not the case. But I'm going to stick with the Rams. I'm taking them to win the division.
Once again, yeah, I'm going with the Rams too. I just feel like both sides of the ball, like John just mentioned, they're going to be better or than most of the other teams. We like Raheem. I like the Raheem Morris as DC. He's once again worked in Atlanta. He knows how to work with lesser parts, just a few, a top heavy kind of roster. And now he's even got, he went from Grady Jarrett and Deion Jones to Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I think he'll be able to figure things out there. And the Rams have, I just have a knack to their front office. Give them credit. They trade away their high draft picks, but they have a knack for making the other third, fourth, fifth round guys work. And they're not stars, but they're solid starters, and they know how to make them fit in their system. And then, yeah, like John mentioned, I believe it works both ways too. It's Stafford and Sean McVay. We haven't seen Stafford in an overly creative offense with a run game. It is a shame that we don't. I think we won't see the full Sean McVay offense just because of Cam Akers gone. But I think we'll see definitely the pass game will be better regardless, like you mentioned, with Stafford there. So went with the Rams. It was tough because, Seahawks, I think their offense will be better, but once again, we have huge questions about the defense.
And also, let's not forget the Rams beat Seattle in the playoffs with John Wolford at quarterback. So that just shows how good the Rams team is.
Yes, how good their schematics are and coaching is. And then I'm trying to think of the other team. And then San Francisco
49ers,
I'm worried about their secondary. Nick Bosa's just coming back off injury. We're not sure. It might take him a few weeks to be 100%, so they might lose a couple of games that they need to win. D Ford's always freaking injured. So, and then I'm worried about their corners too when it comes time. Hey, you got to face Seattle. How are you going to guard up against DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett? Hey, you had to play the Rams. It's Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I'm worried, if they need to play man-to-man, which in the NFL, you're going to have situations, third and short, where you're going to you should play man-to-man. I'm not confident that the 49ers can match up in that way. So, and then also with the quarterback revolving chair, who knows if and when Trey Lance will come in, or if it'll be Jimmy G, who's also been shown signs of inconsistency. So, yeah, I'm going with the Rams there. So now,
which, by the way, Cardinals fans, since we didn't talk about you, it's Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah,
I have to bring him up again because I will never not bring him up. Kingsbury needs to be fired.
And then also with the secondary, like you mentioned how we released episodes, and then now Malcolm Butler, who we're not saying is a star or great, but he was a solid corner that they desperately needed.
They had.
Yes. I think, because I'm not high on Byron Murphy, regardless if you're firing him or not. Who's playing your second corner? And Buda's solid, but once again, it's only one guy. So
Chandler Jones, we don't know what's going on there.
I'm worried about the run defense because all they have really inside is J.J. Watt and maybe Jordan Phillips as difference makers, and that's Jordan Phillips is kind of reaching it, and J.J. Watt's not what he used to be. So we'll see. Maybe Vance Joseph, he showed signs of creativity last year, but regardless. Like we mentioned, the offense, just huge question marks about Cliff Kingsbury, which we've gone over a million times. So
one thing on the Niners too, which this could be an actual differentiating factor. I'm still going to pick the Rams, but their second half schedule is it's easy peasy. If you're a fantasy manager, you are hoping Trey Lance wins the job by that point, and you have him because they play some cupcake defenses in the last half of the season. So that could lead to a lot of wins if, even if their defense has question marks, as long as their offense is cranking. But once again, I'm still taking the Rams, just the safer pick.
Gotcha. All righty. So I'll go over my rank my seedings and how they'll portray. While John, so you can figure yours out real quick. So one, I have Tampa Bay. I know I was down on them last year, but I think we all saw when it starts to click, they're really tough to beat, and they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, especially where you need it. The trenches and skill positions. Or then and obviously Tom Brady there too. He's always going to keep them on their toes. And then also I think their division will be a little bit easier. I think the Saints won't win both regular season matchups against them. If it wouldn't shock me if it's the other way around, just because of how much turnover is going on with New Orleans. Tampa Bay at 1. At 2, I have my Packers, like I kind of alluded to earlier. Besides the Vikings, whom I wouldn't be shocked if we split the series there. The other two division, I think we'll beat them, and I think team's on a little bit on a mission since this is Aaron Rodgers' last year. 3, I have the LA Rams. This was a very tough year between 3 and 4, but like we mentioned, just a very talented team, and just a lot of stars, and I think that'll be enough to get them to the 3 seed. And then 4, I do have Washington. I don't think that they'll be here on a losing sub 500 record. I think if anything, they'll be like 9-8, maybe 10-7. So the NFC East won't be as much of a portrayed joke as it was last year. And then 5, this is where it got really tough. 5, I have San Francisco. I think, regardless of my worries about their cornerbacks and their secondary, it's Kyle Shanahan. And especially if Trey Lance, like you mentioned, does come in at some point, I think that opens up the run game more. Because we kind of saw with RG3 that when he also has a mobile quarterback to add to his running scheme, it just opens up so much. And regardless of not, we've seen what they can do. They have Deebo Samuel back. Remember, he was also injured last year for a good amount of time. And Brandon Ayuk was a rookie. Took him a few weeks to get going. Now they both have, Ayuk had an off season to get more acquainted. And then Deebo's healthy. And George Kittle's healthy. Forget George Kittle was out for a good amount of time. It was just, they had the injury.
So was Mostert.
Yeah, they had a lot. The injury bug was bad. And they also have Trey Sermon now. So they have addressed some depth on some guys that got hurt. So, yeah, I think San Francisco will be right there at 5. At 6, I am going with Carolina. And it's a little bit of a shocker, but we saw them take the correct steps. I think Sam Darnold will be a little more aggressive than Teddy, and I think he knows this is his last chance. This is really baking on Sam Darnold. But even if he's kind of just plays the way Teddy does, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey for 13 of 13 games last year. So getting him back, I think, also helps that with that. And then, another year in the Matt Rule defense and just system and actual offseason and training camp, I think will help with for Carolina too. So I have them at 6. And then 7, real tough, but I had Seattle. I have Seattle. It's just I can't count out Russell Wilson. He's literally going to win like 2 or 3 or 4 games by just on his own. We saw it last year. Like Minnesota, they a game that they shouldn't have been down on, and they were right there, and they won because Russell led them on 2 key drives. So going with Seattle as my 7 seed. So how the playoffs shape out? I'd have Green Bay, Seattle, the 2 versus 7. I'm taking Green Bay again. I think they played a couple of years ago too, and the wild card. 3, I'd have the Rams and the Panthers. Sorry, I didn't write this one, so I'm thinking. I think I would go the Rams here. It's very close, but I'm going with the Rams. I know it's a little chalky. Then 4 and 5, San Francisco and the Washington football team. Once again, I don't mean to be chalky, but Washington, one of the few D-lines I think that would be able to handle the Kyle Shanahan run scheme, because we forget too, they gave the Bucs a run for their money last year in the wild card, and that was with Taylor freaking Heineke at quarterback. So I expect with their size and their depth that we mentioned last episode with Mitchell Matthew, and add William Jackson to maybe help in the secondary, I think they'll be able to handle that run game, and their offense will be good enough. So going with Washington football team there to advance. So I'm pretty chalky here. I'd have Tampa Bay against the Washington football team. And I'm going with the shocker. And I think I may regret this, but I'm going with the shocker. I'm going with Washington. That front, once again, they gave them large issue. They almost won that game last year with Taylor Heineke. And I think it's Washington and Ron Rivera. He's experienced. He's been there. And besides Brady, the Bucs, it's tough. We saw with Kansas City last year. It's tough to to win and then become the hunted again and stay on top of that mountain. And at some point, especially against Washington, I just think that Washington, they can still run the ball solidly as long as Fitzy, he'll take shots. They have a good receiving core. They have a creative enough offense, and I just got this feeling. I could be very wrong. I'm not putting any money on this. Please don't put money on this. And people are gonna say I'm crazy, whatever. It's fine. I'm just feeling a little out there. Going with the Washington football team with the upset against Tampa, which leads to my 2-3 Packers Rams. I think we saw last year with Jared Goff. I mean, the game got away from them. It was a closer game than it showed, and Aaron Donald was hurt. But the Packers, and once again, could be biased, but the Packers just kind of on a mission right now to get to the Super Bowl, win one last dance. So going with my Packers there. So that means it's Packers, Washington football team for the division for me. And I would be going with my Packers, even though.
Okay. I was about to Washington in the Super Bowl.
No, not yet. They need a quarterback. So I got the Super Bowl I rematch, which also would be they also play each other in the regular season too. So we may see, it's kind of fun like last season how the Bucs Chiefs play each other in the regular season and met in the Super Bowl. It would be Packers
Battle
Chiefs.
Of State Farm.
Battle of my own family because my stepfather's dedicated Chiefs fan, and so I'll say it right now. I think the Chiefs would win this one if I had to go. How do you stop that firepower? But obviously, I would love for my Packers to win and this last dance, as some people are dubbing, with the win. But it's tough to bet against Kansas City with the additions they made. So, how does your NFC playoffs shape out, John, and how will your Super Bowl play out?
All right, so the number 1 seed, the Buccaneers. Super Bowl champs. Once again, they had chemistry issues last year. They cleaned it up. Saints got worse. That was 2 losses last year. So that's 2, shots at a win. So they're the number 1 seed. Taking the Rams with the number 2 seed. I think they could really light it up in the regular season. I know the tough part for me there was it's a really competitive division. But I think they have the tools to. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think they have the tools to beat like the Cardinals and the Seahawks, both like all 4 games. We'll see what happens. Number 3, the Packers. Once again, I don't have to explain much. Really good team. Number 4, Washington, NFC East. Which by the way, I think the NFC East I think every team actually should improve this year compared to last year. Like last year, they were so bad.
Maybe the Eagles, but
maybe
every other team should be better.
Like they were like the Giants and the Cowboys both won 6 games last year. Like that's gonna be hard to do again, especially with an added game. I think they should all improve. But Washington's still probably the 4th seed. I think I don't know their schedule, so I can't like confidently say this, but I think like the best I could see them doing is like 11 wins at best. Number 5, similar to you, 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, healthy team. Hopefully, fingers crossed, should be back in the playoffs. Number 6, maybe this is me being biased, but I'm putting the Cowboys in there. I think that they could have a 10-win season. I'm not super worried about their schedule, to be honest. They do have some tough games like the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Patriots. But I mean, I think 10-7 is perfectly within the realm of possibilities because I think they could beat the Eagles. I think they could beat the Giants. I think they could split with Washington if they do lose both because the defense is really good over there. I could see it, but they also have some games. I'm going off the top of my head, so I might be wrong with this, but they play like the Falcons. Like they play some pretty weak teams. They play like the Bengals. That's the tough part though. Is they do play like the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens. I don't know. I'll just keep them there. I'm not gonna dive too deep into the wormhole
so does Washington, like the rest of your division. So that could kind of even itself out.
At the wild card spot, I'm really comparing them against the rest of the NFC, which is the tough part. But I'm gonna keep them there because, like I said, off the top of my head, from what I did see of their previous schedule, I think a 10-7 season is perfectly reasonable. And I think that could be good enough to get in. And then I'm putting Seattle as the 7th seed. I toiled with that because I almost put Minnesota, but I don't know.
Minnesota was a thought for me too.
Because like I don't know when they play Chicago, but I have to imagine that maybe they play at least one of those games late in the year. And if Fields is there, I could see Chicago beating them. I think Green Bay is going to sweep them. Like it's Minnesota's just tough because there's just a lot more question marks overall on the roster. That's not like Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. Like everybody else, there's just a lot of question marks. Um, so yeah, I'm putting Seattle there because once again, like I mentioned earlier, it's an offensive league. Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson, like that should be good enough to win you 10 games. Even in a really hard division, that should be good enough. So yeah, so first playoff matchup, Rams Seahawks. Taking the Rams. I mean, if they could beat them last year with John Wolford, I think they should absolutely beat them with Matthew Stafford. Then the next one, unfortunately, the Packers Cowboys. I'm gonna take the Packers there. As God, if that happens again, I hate the Packers. Like, Aaron Rodgers needs to retire.
Hey, this is the last time. And then we got then we got Jordan
Then
Love.
maybe we could match up with them one day in the playoffs and not have to feel.
We might not even make the playoffs after this year, so we have a rough stretch. So you may have your revenge.
Yeah, and then Washington, San Fran. I'm
Oof.
not as high on Washington as you are. I think I'm a little more. Once again, maybe it's just I really love some of these coaches and I believe in them so much that I think Kyle Shanahan is just a genius. I think if anybody can beat that Washington team, I think it'd be Kyle Shanahan.
That's fair.
Because I mean, like who's going to guard George Kittle? Who like that? I think that just be a matchup thing for them. Brandon Ayuk, I think, could beat their corner. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the.
Hey, they have William Jackson, so
they do have William Jackson,
but he's only one man.
Yeah, he's only one man. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk.
They have the Fuller brother. He's okay. He's nice
Kendall Fuller.
Average.
He's solid too.
I didn't want to say which one because I always mix them up, so I just say the Fuller brother.
It's Kendall. And I think at that point too, Trey Lance will probably be starting. Maybe I'm wrong, and Jimmy G starts the whole year, but I think his legs could make a difference against a strong Washington D line. So I'm going to take San Fran there. So that means the divisional rounds, we got Tampa Bay versus San Francisco. I think Tampa Bay wins that.
We have a good D line too to mess with that.
Yeah, like I think they have a really good defense, just like Washington does, but they have Tom Brady, who's just really smart. Are you getting thunderstorms over there?
Yeah, and I wanted to go grocery shopping, so now I may have to go get fast food. Sorry,
yeah,
continue.
We're getting thunderstorms over here too. Anyway, and then the second game of the divisional round, Rams Packers. That would be a really entertaining one. I think I'm going to take the Rams there.
It was tough for me too. Like I know I said Packers, but I was sitting there. It was a real tough thought.
Part of me thinks like, okay, if Bakhtiari's injuries is as bad as it is, like we saw what happened against Tampa Bay. Like Rodgers he was under siege the whole game, and Aaron Donald, against Corey Linsley's gone. So potentially a rookie center.
Elton Jenkins is, I don't know if he's playing center, guard.
Stud, but
I don't know. He'll probably play all 5 positions at some point in that game because he always does.
But they just move Aaron Donald around so much. Jalen Ramsey against Devontae Adams. I can't remember what Devontae Adams did against him last year.
He didn't do much. He had one touchdown, but that was because of a miscommunication. It wasn't technically on Ramsey.
Yeah.
And I don't put that on Ramsey.
Like, they did the motion.
It was a rub route. It was like a rub route, basically in motion. And like you saw immediately Ramsey got upset at the other corner because he didn't pick him up. So,
yeah. So I think that Jalen Ramsey was
bad in that game too. That was like Jared Goff was just throwing.
He was coming back from injury in his defense, but also it's Jared Goff. So yeah, and I think Matthew Stafford, like the guy's played against the Packers his whole career, so
he's
I think
gonna want revenge.
There's this like
he's tired of it.
He's
like, all
he's
right.
been beaten up his whole career, and now he finally got some like strong friends to come back him up. So I think that Matthew Stafford could have a good game there, and also in this scenario they'd be playing in Los Angeles, so they don't have to go and face the weather of Lambeau Field.
The Packers have struggled on the West Coast the past few years, just in general.
Yeah, so that's a massive plus for the Rams not having to go play in the snow, because we know that Lambeau. I mean, that's just such a huge advantage when you're used to that. So then the conference championship, we got Tampa Bay versus the Rams.
Oof, that's a good one too. But
That's a really hard game to pick because the the Buccaneers have enough receivers to where Jalen Ramsey can't lock them all up. They have a good offensive line to where Aaron Donald can't just find the weakness, and just go to town. Oh, man, I'm gonna
You got to
take the
do it.
Rams
Oh
because
wow! I thought you were
I'm
gonna go
not
in
gonna.
Tampa.
No, I'm not gonna pick the same matchup. That's boring. And
It
when does
never
that
really
happen in the
it
NFL?
rarely happens, and just because the NFL, like I think it's believe the NFL real quick. It changes so quickly and teams adjust. And like I said, you have the target on the back of your head as the Bucks. It's so hard to for both teams to go back because you both have
Yeah,
targets on your head.
and I mean Sean McVay and the crew, they went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and obviously Todd Gurley was a key factor. But I mean, if y'all remember in that playoff run, I had to sit there and watch a CJ Anderson ran for 100 yards
CJ
down the
Anderson,
Cowboys' throat.
who just was on his couch a month earlier.
Yeah, so like I have to believe that Daryl Henderson and Sony Michelle can get the job done there. I like Cooper Cup. I like Robert Woods.
And even if
I
those two go down, I think we saw Van Jefferson showed moments last year, and Tutu
Yep,
Atwell I think is a solid guy that
yep.
could contribute too. So, sorry.
Tutu Atwell, he's one of those kind of sleeper rookies that I think can become a really key piece later in the season as he becomes their sort of take the top off the defense sort of guy with the speed that he has.
And then Deshaun
Um,
Jackson. We forget.
yep, Deshaun Jackson.
So he's good for like 2 games.
Yeah, I think Tyler Higbee could have a really good year this year. And then once again, I know that I'd said that the Buccaneers have good stuff, but it's still Aaron Donald, it's still Jalen Ramsey, and when you take, I mean, you could pick who you want Jalen Ramsey to basically take out of the game at that point, and then Aaron Donald is just he's gonna make life so hard for them to want to run the ball. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna take the Rams. And so in that matchup, we got Chiefs Rams in the Super Bowl, something the NFL fans were hoping for years ago after that crazy game where the Chiefs and Rams both put up like 50 points, and it was just a wild matchup. So I think that's who we get in the Super Bowl. I think it'd be an offensive, just so many points in that Super Bowl. But I'm in a battle of who can score more. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs every single day of the week, even against Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. Although he did have success against Tyreek Hill, I think that, like, what do you do about Travis Kelce? What do you do about Mecole Hardman, who's another fast guy who can just burn your other corners? And they did lose Troy Hill, who was opposite of Jalen Ramsey last year. So I don't know who's playing cornerback too. Uh, Even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like he's a threat with their offensive line. They have such a good offensive line this year that I think they could, for the most part, handle Aaron Donald. I'm not going to say they're going to stop him because nobody really can unless you quadruple team the guy. But I think they could, have a more balanced attack than they did last year against Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs beating the LA Rams in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, Rams fans, because last time I made a prediction like this, the team didn't even make the playoffs. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to relive those memories, but we
Yeah,
all know
that
who.
was rough. That's a little bit my fault too. I started I drank the Gatorade too.
I
So
did too.
I feel like because you saw me drink the Gatorade, I just encourage you to drink the Gatorade.
Maybe, I don't
And the
know.
way I was talking them up in the preseason, so I
It
learned my
does feel
lesson.
hard when someone else believes in your team to not like
Especially a
believe in
Packer
your own
fan,
team.
like it's just like, man, like what's Aaron seeing? Like even I will say real quick, my stepdad was very upset with us because he picked the Cowboys too. Like I don't know if you saw in our spread picks, he picked them a lot too at the beginning of the season. We had him believing, and we
Gosh,
obviously.
the cow that sucks because the Cowboys were like 0 for 12 against
Yes,
the spread to
I
start
think
the
he's like
year.
after week 8, he was like, yeah, after week 8, I just stopped picking, I just stopped listening to y'all about the Cowboys, and I was like, yeah, I think at that point I got off the train too. It was bad.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it took me to tell the Steelers to get off. And then they finally looked good, and I think they covered.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
like the first time the car was against the undefeated Steelers. So
yeah.
it's wild how that goes. But yeah, and so that is our season predictions for the playoffs, and they're probably going to be wrong. Last year, like we just mentioned, we both had Dallas going to the Super Bowl. It didn't happen. So yeah, don't hold us to our word. Don't we're not. And I think it happens with every expert. No one's gonna get this all right because like injuries happen, transactions happen, random dudes pop off, rookies, things like that. So it's just the way it works. But it's always fun to do these. So